Today I'm speaking with Eric Hollenbeck, who's been doing woodworking. Well, how long have you been doing it, Eric?
49 years. Uh, although although I've got a quarter for every year we've been in business, and there's 50 quarters.
Uh-huh.
It's a mathematics conundrum.
Okay. Well, so did you do anything else when you were a boy before you started doing this, or this is it?
You know, I've been building stuff since I was way little. We didn't have any money, so I had to make everything. And my mother, bless her heart, always said, no matter what went wrong, Eric can fix it. Eric can fix it. Eric can fix anything. So I grew up with that story.
You're Mr. Fix It.
Yeah.
My husband's Mr. Fix It too.
Yeah.
But you specialize in, and you're probably one of the few people in the world left that know a lot about the old-fashioned way of doing things.
Our tooling ranges from 1948, our heavy equipment, and we're 2 acres. So there's a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Ranges from 1948. That's our newest piece of equipment. That's a year younger than I am. So it's kiddo as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Back to 1866.
Well, in the Civil War era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not only using to manufacture Victorian millwork, we're not only using the same techniques. In a lot of cases, we're using the exact same tooling.
And you had to probably refurbish those tools too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, my story, Emmeline, which the current title I have, working title is Emmeline Big Decisions, because she has to decide what she's going to do with her life. She's 16 in this book, almost 17. She turns 17 in it, so she's like a late teen. But it takes place in 1893. Not, yeah, which is there was a panic from 1893 to 7, mostly in 93, I think. And so that's going to greatly impact everything in the story, I think.
And the panic was financial?
It was mostly financial work. There was 3 moguls. There was financial, there was railroad, and there was steel. Carnegie,
Yep.
Vanderbilt, and JP Morgan.
Uh-huh.
And there was like strikes and protests, and they came up with the People's Party and all kinds of stuff. There was currency problems. They were trying to go back to the gold standard, and people in the Midwest, farmers especially, they couldn't afford, a lot of people couldn't afford things, so that there was like 25% unemployment. It was terrible. Railroads went broke and I had to close. So I'm thinking that the biggest problems of 1893 would have been transportation, probably, finding work, people who can pay for your work.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably have to be in a big town, not a little town, probably.
Or very, very good at what you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of wondering which I know I have in my first book, it was 1890. I have some tools that I listed in there. But I want to talk to you about what tools would have been used in that era, typically for doing spindles and posts and mullions and different kinds of things around doors and trim and that kind of stuff. Windows.
Yeah, windows would have been shapers.
So a shaper, is that like a plane kind of, only not?
It's a single spinning knife that puts a pattern on the piece of wood.
Oh, what makes it spin?
1890 would have been is it a big shop?
There's just two men in there and a girl. She mainly works on the lathe.
You have two options.
Okay,
If they're a production shop and putting out, then they would have had a small steam engine set up. And it would have been, they would have rotated who would go and stoke that engine during the day, the boiler. The steam engine, once it's stoked, if everything is ducky, can pretty much run by itself. And it would run an overhead line shaft through the whole length of the building, but by a belt, the
okay,
big belt, and it would run this line shaft. And then they would cap off with belts and drop down the various pieces of equipment. And then to start that piece of equipment, you would you would jump the belt from the idle pulley, which just lets the shaft spin and it ain't going anywhere, over to the drive pulley, which then drives the motor, drives the piece of equipment. And then when you're done with that piece of equipment, you jump the belt back to the idle pulley. Okay.
okay. So before that, there probably wasn't a whole lot of options.
Other option, no, that's not true.
Okay,
In 1866, the Barnes brothers began making human powered equipment. We have on site a human powered table saw that you crank and it feeds a board through.
I think I saw a video of that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, human powered cutoff saw, a human powered shaper, which is the tool that I just told you about to put a detail on the side of it. You sit on that one and pedal it, and you change knives just like a router, call it.
Mhm.
Scroll saws, a tenoner for
What's,
the mortise
oh,
and
for
tenon.
mortise and tenon.
Yeah, and a foot powered mortiser. So with the human powered equipment, you could very easily build a window.
Mhm.
I mean, not easily, but
Yeah, and railings would be spindles and posts and.
and we have a human powered
Lathe,
lathe
yeah.
that you sit and
Yeah,
pedal it while you're,
see this picture?
yes,
She's working on it
okay.
in the first book. And in this one up here, this is the young man that's working there and he's got a planer.
He has
I think it's a planer.
it's a hand plane, yes. Yeah, yep, yep. So the one that I'm talking about, the shaper, because you could also create shapes with a hand plane. There were many shaped hand planes, many. And if you didn't have the one that you wanted, then you could make your own. And I would think if I was the old guy that owned the shop,
Yep.
I wouldn't know anything about being an old guy, but if I was, and what I would do, and I had this young lady come in, what I would do is tell her, here's a board. I want you to rip that board in half long ways with a handsaw. That's very difficult to do. Two things come into question with your own handsaw. First off, do you know how to sharpen a handsaw? Because if you don't sharpen it right, it's going to trail off to the sharp side. How are you going to keep that handsaw running true if it's not sharp? That ain't going to happen. Number two, are you good enough to cut it very, very, very straight? Not perfect, because you can't do that, but very, very straight. And then I would ask her to take a joiner plane and plane those two surfaces and now glue that board back together again. If you can do that, you just pass the test. I'll hire you.
Okay.
Did that help at all?
Yeah. So if you were, so
Those are
what would
the
it take
yeah,
for, go ahead.
those are the two most difficult things you can do. So if she could do that, and then win me over with her enthusiasm
Yeah.
for learning the trade, well, then I got somebody that I can work with.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now this young man that works there, this guy over here,
Uh-huh.
he wants to eventually own a shop of his own, and you know,
Yeah.
And he's really proud. He's got a lot of pride in his work, and he's a detail oriented person, and he's a perfectionist. So I'm thinking that would make a good, well, what else would you say would it take for somebody to be successful in the 1890s at a wood shop? Well, I'm thinking you'd have to have a supply of hardwood. You'd have to have customers. So you'd have to have a place, and you'd have to have equipment. You'd have to have drive.
If you Carnegie's, I think, the one that said, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. That held true throughout all of civilization. If you're good and if you're good and conscientious, I think is the word, about what you do, you don't have to have customers. They will come to you.
Okay.
They will find you. So the customer part is not a hard part to overcome in the equation. The hard part, it seems to me, is to get this young girl and that young guy to see eye to eye.
And
And
well, she's got a problem because she has a farm also in Kearney, Missouri, which is now a dairy farm, and there's this other guy over here. But so she's got to decide if she wants to, if what lifestyle does she want? Does she want the pastoral lifestyle of a dairy farmer, or does she want more of the industrial lifestyle of the wood guy? It's not just about the.
I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
I didn't mean in a relationship, that kind of relationship. I mean the relationship daily, about working with somebody. She has to win the trust of the young apprentice and the old guy, the owner of the shop, or there's going to be friction, and you can't have friction in the shop, and I got to let somebody go. I let her go.
Yeah.
And that's the relationship I meant.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know nothing about that other thing. I've been married 45 years.
Well, I've been married 41, so
I don't need to know nothing.
I think we're only like a year apart in our ages, actually. You're just a little like a year older than me.
Yeah. Yeah. See, you're a kiddo.
Do you think they still used horse-drawn carts in that era?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And wagons, dredge wagons to deliver goods. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Let me think what else I was going to ask you. Oh, do you have any like pictures of designs? What do you make the most of? Who asks, what do they ask for most from you? People like old time stuff.
Siding, but that's for a small shop. For a small shop, it would be gable decorations, porch parts, um, doors, windows,
Maybe something around a fireplace or stairs,
mantles. Yeah, those were
stair,
all specialty items.
staircase things.
Mm,
No?
that the spindles for the staircase and the balustrade, yes.
Mhm.
Building the staircase, no, that was
No, no, but that part with the railing.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's called a balustrade. The balustrade is made up of spindles, handrail, bottom rail, and newel posts. And
Mhm.
the whole thing is called a balustrade.
Thank you. All right. If you want to, you could take a minute to tell about the other things you're doing with the historic village. I think that the people, most of my audience are teachers, parents, grandparents, homeschoolers. Um, that's who they are. They might be interested in the things that you do with kids and with veterans.
Uh, we've had a program for at-risk high school kids for 19 years now. No, I'm sorry, 21 years. And they learn blacksmithing. I mean, they can take classes in any of these: blacksmithing, stained glass, lapidary, which is stone shaping,
Mhm.
woodworking, and what else do we have here? Lathe turning, because those are two different trades.
And then
Those
once they've learned that, do they go on and do something with it?
are while they're in school, quote school, because mostly we work with adjudicated kids. While they're in school, we have a gift store and we sell their products out of the gift store and they get all the money for it.
Oh.
And I got to tell you, that takes these kids about 30 seconds to figure that game out. These are not stupid kids in any
No,
stretch of the imagination.
that's a wonderful thing.
And then because we're open for tours, then they'll be working in one of the shops, and within a day or two, they figured out if I talk to the tourist, I can tell them go look for my stuff in the gift store. Yeah, that doesn't escape their realm either. They got that completely surrounded.
Mhm.
And then in 2014, we started a program for returning combat veterans, and we built an exact reproduction of the hearse that carried Abraham Lincoln in 1865 from one photograph and one known measurement. And that was
Wow.
the diameter of the rear wheel. That's the only measurement we had.
Yep.
Um, and that hearse has been displayed in the grand foyer of the Lincoln Museum on 4 separate occasions now, for a month at a time. I mean, it's an exact replica. We did all the castings, we did everything. And we did that with 24 veterans that had never had a tape measure in their hand before a day in their lives.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
that was pretty fun. So you have to ask yourself, why have Vivian and I, my wife and I, had this success with kids in trouble and the veterans. The reason being is that I've walked a mile in both of them boots. You've heard the saying, what don't kill you makes you stronger.
Yep.
Let's analyze what that really means. Does it make you physically stronger?
Maybe not.
Maybe there's some of that in there. Does it make you spiritually stronger? Maybe there's a little bit of that. Does it make you smarter and mentally stronger? There's probably a little bit of that in there. I think the strength that it gives you is empathy, because you've walked a mile in them boots. And I can talk with these kids because I dropped out of school at 16 because I can't read. And they kept telling me I was stupid. So I figure, shit, if I'm stupid, I'll go to work in the woods. And have made a wonderful life out of it. I was a combat veteran in Vietnam, 322 days in the jungle under combat, straight. I've walked a mile in them boots. I get it. I completely get it. And I have empathy. So, so I can talk to these kids and these veterans and completely understand them.
That's great.
I think that's the strength you get. That's what you're stronger from.
Yes, I agree. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I hope this helped.
And if you don't mind, I mean, could I call you or email you if I have any other questions?
Absolutely, please.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
please.
when I'm finished with the book, I would like to put a little something, a little page or two in the back about you, if that's okay too. I'll let you, review it before it's printed. Would that work?
That works great.
Okay.
You want me to look at the written word? That's pretty funny. But Viviana reads to me.
That's
I
fine. That's
understand the
fine.
English language.
I just think it's really special what you do, and it's so rewarding for you too, to see that change in people. That's
Yeah.
got to be rewarding.
It has been the high school program has been hugely successful.
And
And
that's just priceless. That's priceless.
without offending any of your audience, it has been hugely successful because we are not part of the system. We're not part of the education system. We are a subcontractor. And boy, it just drives the system nuts. They go crazy over that. But it means that we can do what we want to do. We make our own yearbooks every year. The kids hand set their own type, print their own pages on a 1909 letterpress. We hard bind it. The kids all help. They hard bind 40 yearbooks every year, and they get a yearbook that they get to take home that they made from scratch. It's a big deal. It's to get them to do it. It's like pulling teeth. Only on the last day of the year party, there better dang well be a yearbook for them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for visiting with us today. I didn't want to take too much of your time, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.